or AECC, English A. Before starting, I would just like to tell you that don't worry about the WhatsApp group. Once everything will be sorted out regarding, the A, B, and C classes, we will have a WhatsApp group. Don't worry about that. And if there's any issues regarding the material, you can go to the SOL website and download it from there. Download the syllabus as well as the material that is provided to you on the SOL site. Also, once everyone is clear, I think in a week everything will be clear regarding the classes that you are all in. Like many of you have pointed out in the last class, that if you look at the receipt, the fee receipt that you have, your A, B, and C, English A, B, and C is mentioned over there. So have a look at that and attend your classes accordingly. All right. And in a week's time, when everyone is comfortable with their classes, once they know which classes they have to attend, we can have a WhatsApp group. We can form a WhatsApp group. All right. So the SOL material about for this particular paper, AECC, is there on SOL website. And if there are any questions or issues, of course, we can discuss it in class. We can also look it over in the group also, right? And in the last few classes, I will definitely share more materials if you think that you still have not understood the concept, right? And we can also discuss the question paper. Okay, and I will definitely share the material with you. Don't worry about that. I'm sorry, I'm not on Telegram, so yeah. So like I've said in the earlier class, in the previous class too, that this what was this thing? I'm sorry, I forgot. What was the question? Please recommend a book. So there are many different books. There are many different textbooks that are available in the market for AECC. What you need to see is that that it is specifically for Delhi University AECC. All right, as long as it is a Delhi University prescribed syllabus, the book is following the syllabus of Delhi University. You can buy the book, or you can have a look at it, and if you think it's valuable material for you, it's a supplementary material of what has been taught to you in class, then of course you can buy the book. All right, so that's the introduction. All right, so let's get on with the class. In the last class, let's have a look at what we did in the last class. In the last class, we looked at the very basics of communication. I'm sorry. Yeah, the concept of communication was discussed, right? And we looked at where does the word communication comes from. It comes from the Latin word communicare, which means to share, and it also comes from the Latin word communis, which means commonness and is another word for communication. And we as human beings have been doing communications on various levels. We as human beings have been doing communications on various levels to discuss or to talk about or fulfill our needs, whether it is social, educational, psychological, financial, professional, or cultural in its nature. Then we looked at a few definitions of communication, where the keywords were transmission, transfer of information, meaningful information that is to be shared, exchange of behavior, a message that is sent by the sender and received by the receiver. All right, and it is a social system that we follow right, while we are communicating. Then we looked at why do we need to communicate. We need to communicate on an in an individual context, a social context, and a professional or an organizational context. In an individual context, we try to communicate or use communication to gain more information about ourselves, about the people around us, to be more successful, to realize our aspirations, to enforce the behavioral patterns, whether we are happy, whether we deserve respect, whether we are sad, right? And of course it helps in forming relationships, human relationships, right? And in the social context, it helps in educating people, it helps in persuading people, it helps in generating enthusiasm amongst people, it helps dissuading people from doing something wrong, it helps in changing the society, it helps in creating a sense of revolution within it, as a call for transformation rather. It helps in performing many functions, and it also helps in building an image of individuals in a social context. Then in the organizational context, we looked at how communication is very important for a professional working in an organization. It helps to it serves as an essential tool because it helps in connecting to his or her peers, to the managers. It helps in keeping the employees or the professionals informed about the tasks of the organization. It helps in facilitating the basic management processes. It helps in coordinating the organization within the organization, and kind of coordination that's happening among the employees. And it helps in promoting active leadership. It also helps in evaluating the employee or the professional. And of course the main issue, idea of feedback, that you can always receive and give feedback in an organization through the tool of communication. And lastly, we looked at the effective methods, the aims and methods, right? When we are communicating, what are the effective methods, or what are the effective aims and methods to communicate? To communicate, sorry. First is to identify the object. Why do we need to communicate? Why do we require any form of communication, right? First, if they once the objective is settled or the objective is identified, then we move on to the next step, that is how are we going to present our thoughts, our feelings, our ideas, our emotions, right? And then we are going to select the medium for communication. What is the perfect medium to communicate? Are we going to do it verbally? Are we going to do it over a phone? Are we going to do it through a bunch of snaps and Snapchat? Are we going to do it on WhatsApp, or are we going to do it on email? All right. And once the medium has been established, we choose an appropriate environment for the delivery. Right now we are doing it virtually because there's a pandemic going outside. So this is the environment that is to be created, right? If you want to break some kind of bad news, you would not go to a social club to talk to your friend about it, right? The environment is very, very necessary. Like for example, we cannot have a class in a mall, right? So an appropriate environment is to be created to deliver the right message in the right setting. Then paralinguistic features. Don't worry if you do not understand what I mean by paralinguistic features. Paralinguistic features will be discussed in the forthcoming classes. But right now for you to understand what paralinguistic features means is the idea of how we are using our tone, our pitch, our gestures, our facial expressions to communicate, right? Sometimes it happens that your friend is sitting far away from you in the class, and you just need to have a look at him to understand whether he's enjoying or whether he's suffering, whether he's sad or angry, right? And lastly, no communication is complete without feedback, right? Once the sender sends his message, right, and the receiver receives his message, the communication process is only considered complete when there is a feedback, right? For example, if I ask you a question, until and unless you answer me, I would not know that you have understood what I was going to say, what I was asking you, sorry. All right, so feedback. So this was the last class, a summary of the last class, and let's have a look at what we are going to do today. So I have discussed what we did in the last class. All right. So today we are going to do Hockett's features, human communication versus animal communication. Let me reiterate again that do not worry about the WhatsApp group. Please focus on the lectures right now. Worry about the WhatsApp group later. I do not understand the urgency to create a WhatsApp group right now when you clearly won't understand what is being delivered to you in the lectures. If you just for once forget that we will create a WhatsApp group and focus on the lectures, that is going to help you, then that WhatsApp group. I told you again and again that don't worry, it will be formed later. Just focus on what is being taught to you. I do not understand this. If there is any issue with my voice or the video, please leave the class and rejoin. Rejoin, okay? All right. If there's any issue technically, don't worry, there won't be an issue over here because there's a technical team, member of the technical team always present during class. So if there is any issue regarding my video or anything that you may not understand, then he would point it out. But if it is happening on your end, then please leave the class and then rejoin. Okay, that is the best way. Don't miss out thinking that you have technical errors or something. Just quickly rejoin the class. All right, now let's get on with the human communication versus animal communication. All right, part 2 of unit 1. So here are the Hockett's design features that we will be discussing today. Communication mode, rapid fading, interchangeability, feedback, specialization, semanticity, arbitrariness, discreteness, displacement, productivity, cultural transmission, duality, prevarication, reflexiveness, and learnability. So here is a diagram. Let me just zoom this for you a little. Wait. So don't worry if you cannot see this diagram. It's easily available on Google. If you just type Hockett's design features, a lot of diagrams will appear. All right. And let me just share it with you. Just a second. Wait a second. To clear any confusion, wait. Okay, so I've shared the link for the image. If you cannot see it on PowerPoint, if it's not clear, I hope you can see that I've published it. All right, so let's start. All right, so what is human communication versus animal communication? Hockett's design features are a set of features that characterize human language and set it apart from animal communication. All right, and these were the the different features that the linguistic anthropologist Charles F. Hockett came up with in the 1960s. The first is the vocal and auditory. What does vocal and auditory infer? This design feature is fairly straightforward. Hockett believed an important feature of human languages was the use of the vocal and auditory channels, the way we use this larynx, right? We use our sound box, right? The way we are using our vocal and auditory channels to produce sound, to produce a kind of vibrations that give birth to these words that we are forming. All right, that is distinguishable. That's the first feature. Okay, and you can easily relate to this the image where the man is producing a set of vibrations, and auditory, which means that you are listening, and it registers in the ears of the human beings, which they can pick up and understand what is being spoken to them, right? For example, if I speak in Punjabi, the vibrations that will be produced, the sound that will be coming out, it can be understood by people around me that perhaps she's not speaking the language that I speak, or she is speaking in Punjabi, or she has a few words in Hindi too, which we can perhaps understand. All right. So vocal and auditory channel is very specific to human beings. Then broadcast transmission and directional reception. The directionality Hockett is referring to in regards to this parameter is the way that human language is produced with aim, and this aim is perceivable to the receiver. Right? For example, if you're sitting in a class, if you're sitting in a physical class and the person right at the back calls out, "Ma'am, I have a question." So I would be looking towards him. I would know where the noise, where the sound came from, right? I would not be looking elsewhere. I would not be looking outside of the window to see awaaz kahan se aayi, right? I would be looking at the person or the student or the learner that has asked me the question. Right? When we are talking to a friend, we are looking towards him and we are speaking to him. We are not talking to the walls. We are speaking to the person in front of us. Right? Right now, I'm speaking to the laptop, to my screen, because I know that it is being recorded and you're sitting behind and you're all using your laptops, your mobile phones to connect to me. Right? So for example, when we speak with a specific audience in mind, and we usually direct our speech at this person by orienting our mouth towards them. Similarly, when we hear spoken language, we are usually able to perceive from which direction it came in. So let's have a look at this diagram once again. So sorry. Broadcast transmission and directional reception, right? So our ears are trained to understand where the voice is coming from, or where the sound is coming from, or where we're supposed to turn to hear what is being told to us, or what has been said to us. Right? So also the way we speak, our mouth is also trained to speak to the person who is going to be in front of us. Right? Then rapidly fading. Rapidly fading, the sound waves that transmit spoken language rapidly fade once they are transmitted. If they are not perceived, the message is lost. Unlike written language, which is clear, Hockett excludes from human language, speech cannot be perceived after its sound waves are gone, right? So of course, the way that the words that I'm using right now, after the fact that they have been right outside of my mouth, they will disappear. Right? It's not like you're hearing echoes of my voice whenever I'm speaking. Right? As soon as the word escapes, as soon as the sound escapes my mouth, it disappears. Right? It is not going to stay in the air. right? It is not going to be hanging in the air, and after like 1 hour you'll be like, oh, ma'am is still speaking when ma'am is in there, right? No, that's not going to happen. As soon as the words leave our mouths, right, the words or the vibrations start fading, right? Except for the written word, Hockett has pointed out, human communication quickly fades. Only written communication is this form of communication that actually stays, but oral communication of any kind is, once it is out of your mouth, it disappears. It slowly goes away. All right, so here you can see in the diagram, they have shown rapid fainting, that once the word is out, once the word has escaped the mouth, the noise or the sound, the vibrations have escaped the mouth, it soon disappears in the air, right? Then we have interchangeability. Interchangeability, in the absence of impairment, all adult speakers of a language have equal ability to transmit and receive any message. Linguistic signals. Humans are not limited in the types of messages they can say or hear. One can say, I am a boy, even if one is a girl. This is not to be confused with lying or prevarication. The importance is that a speaker can physically create any and all messages regardless of their truth or relation to the speaker. In other words, anything that one can say, one can hear, one can also say. There are no messages that are exclusive to only some members, as in ant colonies, for example, in which a queen may be able to transmit chemical messages that others biologically cannot produce. Right? So another very important feature of human communication, which differs from animal communication, is the idea of interchangeability, where, for example, I can say and you can say anything that you want. If I am a teacher right now, I can simply say that I am a student, right? And you, if you are a student, you can say I am a teacher. So we can interchange our sentences n number of times. We can produce sentences to the power of infinity, right? As long as we know the words, we can create n number of sentences. It does not mean that we are only going to create a limited number of sentences, right? Just the way animal colonies function. For example, in ant colonies, only the queen ant has been allowed to give out a kind of a chemical message to all the other ants that yes, the work has been done. But the worker ants cannot do so. Similarly, this happens in the beehive too, that the queen bee is responsible and can transmit her messages. The worker bee cannot do so, right? But for us, if we can hear, we can speak. If we do not even understand and we can hear, we speak, right? For example, if we do not understand Bangla, we do not understand Punjabi, and we hear to their songs, we start singing them, do we not? Right? So if you're hearing those words clearly and we may not understand what they are about, but we can speak them. Okay, we can interchange the words that we are speaking with the words that we are hearing. Animals cannot do that, right? For example, a bear cannot make the sound of a dolphin. A dolphin cannot make the sound of something else, right? Of an elephant perhaps. But we can we can speak in different languages that we may or may not even understand, right? Then total feedback. Let's have a diagram. I will look at the diagram. Interchangeability. As long as we can hear, you can see the vibrations that he is hearing. As long as he can hear, he can speak in anything. All right. Then total feedback. Total feedback. Speakers of a language can hear their own speech and can control and modify what they are saying as they say it. Similarly, signers see, feel, and control their signing. What does this mean? Total feedback. For example, if I am giving you a lecture, right, physically, and I see that most of you are quite bored or sleepy, I will change the way I speak. I can change my tone. I can bring in new examples that you connect with, right? For example, if we are going to a friend and we tell him about some news and suddenly he seems agitated or irritated, we'll suddenly change our idea of speaking. We'll shift him away from that particular topic to another topic, right? We will give him some kind of a different topic to discuss, right? So we know what is happening in front of us. So the way as soon as the words escape from our mouth, we have as humans the innate ability to understand what the other person is also thinking, right? Through his emotions, through his gestures, through his feelings, to his eyes, we can understand if he or she understands us, or if he or she is angry with us, happy with us, confused, puzzled, or anything, right? So there's always this ability of giving total feedback. You can see over here in the image that once it is going out of your mouth, you can train yourself. Rather, you have the ability to know how the message that you are giving out is being received by the person in front of you. All right, just give me 2 minutes to rest my voice. All right. Then we'll be looking at specialization. Specialization. The function of the action must be communicative and not a biological function. In other words, the purpose of speech is to communicate and does not serve any biological need or a function. For example, a non in as form of non-specialized communities, you can see if the dog is hungry, he will take out his tongue and show that he's panting, right? When the dog pants, you know that he's hungry, he's feeling hot, or he is, thirsty, right? So a dog panting or a dog's tail wagging from here and there, and there's a lot of these posts. If you just Google, you will know that they'll tell you if the dog's tail is erect, it means something. If it's down, it's scared, If it's wagging, it's happy, right? So it serves a biological need. It serves a kind of a need. Okay. So, however, the dog pants in order to cool itself, and this is a biological function, and communication is secondary. But we do not do that as human beings. Our specialization, our communication is solely for the purpose of communicating. As the words escape our mouth, they do not serve any kind of biological function. They are only used to communicate, all right, to express our thoughts, our feelings, our ideas, and share information. All right. And here, let's have a look at the diagram for specialization. Here, he is only using the words to communicate, whereas, for example, you have dogs that are wagging their tail to suggest that they are hungry. All right, then the idea of semanticity. The symbols within a language must have symbolic meaning. Words within human language are symbols for things or ideas, right? For example, when we are studying A, B, C, D, E, we know how A is being written, how B is written, how C is written, right? And that is how we grow up to learn the language. That is how we grow up to form words and use it as form of communication. It's not like if it is an A, we will say that it's a D, it's an E. No. As long as it is written like this, it is an A. Right? If this is B, it is a B. It cannot be a C, it cannot be a D. Right? So whatever symbols are form a language, those are followed, right? So far we have been unable to understand what kind of languages have been produced, or what do if there is a language that is being produced by animals, do they follow a particular pattern or not? Of course, studies are being undergoing to study a set of patterns, especially, for example, if you look at dolphins, if you look at orcas, if you look at orcas and orcas or killer whales, they also have a kind of a language that they speak, right? They have these vibrations that they give out underwater, right? And studies are still going are being they're being researched on to understand that do they really follow a pattern, and if they're following a pattern, it will be repeated. The way we are using words, you will always find these words being repeated in different contexts and meanings. That's why you understand the meaning of a particular word, right? So similarly, a lot of studies have been happening to study all of these animal studies, animals on ground and above ground too. What are they speaking, and do they follow a pattern or not? But for human language, for human communication, the main point for you to understand right now is that we follow a pattern, right? We follow a set of social symbols, of language symbols that we follow, that contains or makes a language system. Okay, then semanticity, right? Here is the diagram, and as you can see, pass the salt. He's been asked to pass the salt, and we know what pass the salt means, right? We are not going to pass him pepper, we're not going to pass him red chili powder, we're not going to pass him chili flakes. We are going to pass the salt, right? And if I say please attend the class, right? Please attend the class for AECC. You won't be attending your commerce class saying that no, that is AECC and this is commerce. No, right? So you know what is being told to you and what it means. All right. Then we'll go on to arbitrariness. Sorry, just a second. Arbitrariness. The symbols are arbitrary in form. The relationship between the four words themselves and the things to which they refer is random. There is nothing about the word dog which connects it to the concept of a dog, except that we have agreed that this is the meaning of it in English. Almost all names a human language attributes an object is thus arbitrary. The word car is nothing like an actual car. Spoken words are really nothing like the objects they represent. This is further demonstrated by the fact that different languages attribute very different names to the same subject or object, sorry. Right, just the way we were looking at before, that the idea that we have the ability to say that I am an astronaut even if I'm not an astronaut, I'm a chef even if I may not be a chef. So similarly, for example, if I say that this is not a mobile phone, this is a car, right? So I can say anything, right? But what arbitrariness suggests, right? What arbitrariness suggests, this particular feature suggests that if you're calling, we can call an iPhone a mobile, we can call a 3310 a mobile, we can call anything a mobile, right? The word mobile doesn't have a particular definition or doesn't have a particular image that comes to our mind, right? We give words to different things around us, right? That doesn't mean they look like it, right? A car may not look, the word car may not look like a word car. The word tree may not look like a tree, right? But we say it, we call it that. The word lamp won't look like the word lamp, right? The tube light, the pencil box, it does not mean they look like the words that they refer to. Okay, so this is arbitrariness. An apple does not look like an apple, the word apple, right? But we call a red kind of a fruit an apple. Okay, so this is arbitrariness. Animals do not do that. Animals do not create voices and say that, this is this or this is that, right? Then discreteness. Discreteness, human language is, let's have a look at the diagram first for arbitrariness. In arbitrariness, you have been given two examples of a whale and a microorganism. Now, a whale is a whale. That does not mean WHALE, can mean any kind of a fish or a dolphin, right? Because they already have words to them, right? There's already a dolphin means something that has like a bottleneck, right, for a mouth. And if he is calling a fish a small fish, we know how small fish looks like. If we say it's a whale, that very word WHALE means a rather big fish, right? A shark, we always imagine it with that thing, right? Like a fish, a fin that's protruding out of its head, right? So the words mean something, right? But they also do not mean anything. That's the idea behind arbitrariness. Then discreteness. Human language is comprised of discrete units. Words in languages are made up of discrete number of sounds. They are perceived categorically, not continuously. For example, English marks numbers with the plural morpheme. Smallest sound is morpheme. Okay. The s that we used at the end, for example, relationships, s, all right, it means that one is a relationship singular and relationships form a plural, boy and boys, right? So when we add that morpheme, we can change it, we can change the meaning. Right? So the plural morpheme is perceived categorically, not continuously. We cannot express smaller or larger quantities by varying how loudly we pronounce the words. So this is what discreteness means. For example, if I say a boy and we say boys, and then I say boys. Now that doesn't mean if I'm adding that z extra, the boys will increase in number. All right, boys, BOYS and BOYSSSSSSS doesn't mean that they both differ. They're both the same thing. It doesn't mean that if I'm adding an emphasis to it, it suddenly means something different. Like for example, when we say when we are chatting with the friends on WhatsApp, we say we are okay and with a Y. It doesn't mean that we are okay on a whole different level. We're just okay, but we're just adding it like for fun with our friends, right? I'm sad, right? If you write sad with an extra three alphabet, the D's at the end of the word sad, it does not mean you're extra sad, right? You're just sad, right? So we have these words that we can add at the end, right? These morphemes that are to be added at the end of the words does not change the meaning, does not change the meaning if you emphasize it of you or you underemphasize it, right? It just means the same thing. All right, then displacement. Let's have a look at the image first. Yeah, discreteness. So it's a pin and it's a bin. If it doesn't mean if it's a pin, so if it's a small pin, I'll speak it slowly. It's a pin. No, it's a pin. Okay. Yeah, displacement. Language can refer to things that are not present. This feature allows them to refer to abstract concepts as well as items that are simply out of view of members of a conversation. Speakers can talk about the past and the future and can express hopes and dreams. A human speech is not limited to here and now. Displacement is one of the features that separates human beings from other primate conversation. A very important feature of human communication is that we have the ability to talk about our past or the future, right? We can talk about things that has not happened and things that have happened in the past and that are no way related to the present. So we can use our language to discuss things of the past, of the things that have happened and of the things that may happen, right? The way we are studying history, we weren't present during that time, but we can certainly talk about it, and that is displacement. Animals, on the other hand, cannot talk about or communicate, right? They may be present. For example, a turtle and a tortoise can be present for hundreds of years, right? They can age, I think, their age is they can live up to 200 300 years, and it does not mean they can talk about it or communicate that this is what they have lived. This is the around a few years back I was doing this. No, the animal cannot do that. Human beings can do that. Human beings can talk about their pasts and their futures. Animals can live as long as 200 to 300 years. Many whales can live around to 200 300 years. But can they communicate what they have been feeling or what they saw in the previous year? No, they cannot do that. All right. So that's displacement. Then we have productivity. What is productivity? The discrete units of a language may be used to create an infinite possible number of messages. The finite number of sounds that can be produced by the human vocal tract and smaller sets of these which a particular human language may be comprised of can be combined in an infinite number of ways to create new words which themselves can be combined into an infinite number of combinations to create an infinite number of meanings. Language is not stagnant, but it's certainly changing, right? It's constantly changing. So what is productivity? Like I've said, as human beings, we have the ability to provide n number of words, and language as a system is constantly changing. Earlier, we did not use the words like lit, right? We did not use the words it's a vibe. We did not use that. But now we are using that. And now the meanings of these words have been changed. Earlier, lit ka matlab lit hi hota tha. Like the light has been lit up, the lamps have been lit up, and it's a vibe. It meant energy. But now we use it in a different way, that it's a vibe. Right? So productivity, we can create infinite numbers of words, we can create infinite number of messages. So the power of communication. And then traditional transmission. Language is acquired through some combination of biology and environment. We acquire the ability to have and use language biologically, while we require modeling, teaching, and other environmental inputs in order to acquire it. However, we are not born with any kind of complete use of human language. What does traditional transmission mean is that when a baby is born, he or she does not possess the ability to communicate in a language, right? He learns it. He traditionally learns it. He learns it by speaking to his parents, the parents speaking to him. He learns to write. He learns to how to hold a pen. He learns how to use his mouth to utter words, right? So it is a traditionally transmitted system of language, right? Animals are not trained. You do not see an animal writing down words or been given a dictation by his parent animal or not, right? They just learn to, create words. A bird does chi 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 chi, right? It is not writing. It is not hearing. The bird is not going to repeat, say chi. No, it does not do that, right? Human beings are being trained, are always being trained to speak or write. Right, so traditional transmission of language. And lastly, duality. A duality of patterning language is composed of a system of phonology mapped onto a system of grammar. Meaningful messages are made up of distinct smaller units, words and morphemes, which themselves are made up of distinct smaller meaningless units. For example, don't get confused by this again. So if there is a word, we can break it down into smaller words like uneducated, right? In uneducated, we have un, that is a prefix, we have ed, that is a suffix, and we have educated, educate, right, in the middle. So uneducated, and that is a word, and we can break this word into, these three little forms. We can remove the ed, we can remove un, we can bring only educate, right? So this is the way human language works. We can create it using different morphemes. We can add to the words that are there in front of us. All right, so this was duality. All right, so this was today's lecture. And what did we discuss? We looked at Hawkins' design features, where we looked at communication mode, rapid fading. We looked at communication mode, which is the vocal and the auditory channel, that if I can speak, you can hear, right? And then the idea of broadcast transmission, that once the language escapes, once the words escape from our mouth, they are not going to stay in the air for a very long time. But in underwater, you can see that, with dolphins and with many other fishes, large fishes, whales, there is a kind of a vibration that they can hear at a distance, and it can stay, right? Then the idea of a rapid fading, broadcast transmission, I got confused. So this was rapid fading. Broadcast transmission is when a voice is being called out, right? And somebody asks you something, you suddenly turn towards that person to hear what this person is saying, right? So naturally, we will know where we are supposed to turn, and that's broadcast fading. Rapid fading is that once the words escape our mouth, they're not going to stay. Then interchangeability. Whatever that we can hear, if we understand it or not, we can speak it out, right? Total feedback. We can change the way we speak once we have a look at what is happening in front of us. If a person is angry, irritated, we can change what we are going to say, right? Specialization. Our communication does not serve any kind of a biological need. We only speak to communicate our feelings, thoughts, and expressions. Semanticity. The words mean something. If you say pass the salt, you will pass the salt, and you will not pass the pepper, right? Arbitrariness. The words that we give, the words that we assign to different things may not mean or may not look like those things that the words have been assigned to. All right. Then discreteness. That if we emphasize or underemphasize any particular word, the meaning of the word won't change. If we say boys, the quantity of the boys won't change. It will remain the same. Then displacement. We can use a language to talk the past, we talk about and the future, right? And productivity. We can talk about we can create meanings from words in n number of ways. Infinite possibilities are possible in the language that we use. And then traditional transmission. When we grow up, we as a baby we learn language. Language is not a natural ability, the way we use our hands, the way we see. No, language is something that we learn. And duality of patterning means that a word can be broken down and divided into smaller morphemes. All right, so this is what we studied in today's lecture. And for students who who were not present in the last lecture, I gave you a brief summary at the beginning of this particular lecture too. So I hope you were present for that. And also, all of these lectures are recorded a dashboard. I discussed the last lecture. Any other questions? We have 5 units in a ECC. Yes, Manoj Kumar Garg English communication book is sufficient. Any other questions? Broadcast transmission is who asked me? Bhavna, for example, if you're sitting in front of me, if you're sitting like we're having a physical class, Bhavna, and you're sitting at the end and you raise your hand and you say that, ma'am, I have a question. So immediately I would know that, Bhavna called me out. Right, Bhavna is sitting at the back and I need to respond to her, right? And sometimes we know where the voice is coming from, right? When we are walking and one of our friends call us, hello Bhavna, where are you? So we will immediately turn to where the voice is coming from, right? Where that sound is coming from. That's broadcast transmission. If our friend is sitting in front of us, we will be talking to him. We'll be talking to him, right? We are not going to like for example in a class I'm not going to sit over here, like I'm not going to move my face over there and speak. No, I'll speak in the camera towards you. Okay, I'll be speaking towards you. The voice or the sound that we produce should be directed towards the receiver. Okay, I hope this is clear for you, Bhavna. SOL book is there on the SOL website. There is this book, like one of you has pointed out, Manoj Kumar Garg, by Manoj Kumar Garg. And I've told you this like already, I don't know how many times, and I'm repeating this again. Just focus on the lectures. Focus on the lectures. Everything will be provided to you. If you just focus on what is being taught to you in the lectures right now, you wouldn't have to worry about the other things. But clearly you are trying to think about the things that really do not matter right now. So that's all I'm going to say. Okay. The lecture has been recorded and soon it will be uploaded on your dashboards. So don't worry about that. Dual patterning, Ria, means is that, for example, when when we're using words in English, for example, they can be broken down into smaller units. Like I use the example of knowledgeable. For example, knowledgeable. So there is a word knowledge in it and there's a word able in it. So it means something. Uneducated, remove the remove the educate and remove the e. So our language can be broken down into smaller patterns. That is what we mean. This is not literature, by the way. Someone, Khushi Sharma, This is AECC, not literature. This is Ability Enhancement Compulsory Course English. We are not taking a literature class. Literature is entirely different. All right. So I'll take one last question. Traditional transmission, Vaishali, I've just explained that traditional transmission means that you will know where the sound is coming from. You will know where to turn to if someone calls out your name. You will always turn towards the person you need to speak to. All right. So we would know that. Oh, sorry, just a second. Yeah. Nothing. It's just my screen. All right. And one last question by Muhammad Danish. Danish, semanticity means that the ideas, the words that we are using, they mean something, right? They follow a set pattern. A set pattern. A language is a system, right? Right at the beginning, when we're looking at communication, we looked at that it is a system of words. So if we are seeing pepper, we know that if someone asks for pepper, we will give him pepper. We will not give him salt. We will not give him chili flakes, right? We will give him pepper. So this is the symbols that we follow. It is A, B, C, right? We cannot say that A is B and B is C and C is D. No, we follow a set of norms. We follow a set of symbols, and that is semanticity. All right. Paralinguistic features, don't worry, Divyansh, it will be discussed in the following lectures. Paralinguistic features, right now, what you need to worry about is it's the gestures, the tones, the pitch, right? When we are talking, we change our tone, we change our pitch, we change our gestures, our facial expressions. That's all paralinguistic features. Akash, I didn't understand what question you have asked. No, there'll be no literature. Please, students, this is AECC. This is not literature, it's AECC. Vocal and auditory channel, Ritika, means that vocal and auditory. Vocal, आपकी voice कहाँ से आ रही है? You're being producing your voice through your vocal channel. And auditory means anything that refers to the ear. Auditory canal कहाँ है? Ear में. So whatever that we speak, we hear. Right? So vocal and auditory channel. Divyansh, paralinguistic features, gestures, facial expressions. Shreya, right now you can of course just have a look at the SWL material that is provided to you on the SWL site. All right, so let's meet in the next class. I think the next class is on 13th if I'm not wrong. We will be completing unit number 1. All right, so don't worry, I will be doing a recapitulation of this particular lecture 2 in the next class like I did with unit 1 part 1. All right, so bye bye, take care.